Welcome to Idea Television News at 9. I am Adewale Olashipo. We begin with the headlines. Tinubu reaffirms commitments to Southeast development. Ndayishimiye takes over as AU chair. Shetima attends summit. Omoshein calls for patriotism to drive national development. China to scrap tariffs on Africa exports from May 2026. President Tinubu commissions 5 projects in FEB. Away from Africa, Rubio calls U.S.-Europe's child, reaffirms transatlantic unity. Trump threatens to bypass Congress, force election rules. In health, NDLEA arrests 17 seizes drugs in Kano ahead of Ramadan. In business, federal government releases 127 billion naira to continue former NPCL road projects. In climate, Italy proposes climate shock debt suspension for Africa. And in sports, Bolaji reaches final. Inanna wins historic bronze at World Champs. Now the news in full. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to developing infrastructure in Nigeria's southeast. He yesterday at a public lecture in Umuahia, Abia State, marking the 70th birthday of former Chief of Army Staff Azubuike. The president was represented by the Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Dr. Kingsley Ude, highlighting key projects. Tinubu pointed the concession of Akano Ibiam International Airport, the ongoing Nsulu Airport project, and the operationalization of the Port Harcourt-Aba Railway. He also referenced the Southeast Development Commission, $3 billion approved for the East Rail Line and $508 million for East Port upgrades. The president said these initiatives aim to boost economic growth, improve connectivity, and engage young people in productive activities. He described the Southeast as vital to Nigeria's national development and achieving the country's $1 trillion economic target by 2030, praising the region's enterprise and contributions to the nation. Now to Ethiopia. Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima is in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, attending the 39th Ordinary Session of the African Union, where Burundi's President Ndayishimiye formally assumed office as AU chairperson for 2026. He succeeded Angola's president at the summit. The event brought together 49 African heads of state, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and international partners. Discussions focused on sustainable water access, safe sanitation, climate action, security, and continental development under Agenda 2063. In his remarks, Secretary General Guterres praised the UN-AU partnership, while outgoing Chair-President Lourenco called for stronger conflict resolution mechanisms. The session ended with Ndayishimiye's formal handover and a closed-door meeting on Africa's strategic priorities for 2026. In other news, philanthropist and House of Representative hopeful Bamidele Omoshein has urged Nigerians to show patriotism, unity, and love for one country as a way to tackle the country's socio-economic challenges. He made the appeal today as he marked his birthday. Omoshein highlighted that national unity is key to addressing hunger, poverty, terrorism, and insecurity. He encouraged communities to work with security agencies and called on federal and state governments with possible international support to collaborate on tackling insurgency. The philanthropist from Ijebu-Ode in Okitipupa local government area is known for distributing food, cash, and tools to vulnerable residents. He also reminded young Nigerians to celebrate Valentine's Day responsibly, promoting civic engagement and community solidarity is vital for sustainable development. Now to China. The country will eliminate tariff on imports from 53 African countries with which it maintains diplomatic relations starting May 1st, 2026, Chinese President Xi Jinping announced. The expected zero-tariff policy unveiled as African leaders gather for the African Union Summit marks a significant boost for continental trade with Beijing's market. The measure extends an existing zero-tariff regime that previously covered 33 African states and applies to nearly all goods exported to China, excluded Eswatini due to its diplomatic ties with Taiwan. Chinese state media say the move is aimed at deepening economic cooperation and supporting African development by enhancing market access and streamlining custom procedures. China is already Africa's largest trading partner and a major infrastructure financer through initiatives such as the Belt and Road Initiative. Officials suggested the tariff removal will create new opportunities for African exporters, particularly in commodities and manufactured goods, and strengthen South-South economic ties as global trade patterns shift. In other news, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu arrived in Benin Kebbi on Friday to commission 5 major projects at the State Secretariat named after him, with 4 additional projects unveiled virtually. His visits coincided with the 2026 Argogo International Fishing and Cultural Festival. At the airport, the president was welcomed by Kebbi State Governor Nasir Idris, the Minister of State for Defense, and other governors and top officials. The commissioned projects include the ultra-modern State Secretariat, a dualized 3-lane carriageway along Emir Haruna Road, the College of Nursing and Midwifery Sciences in Ambrosa, the Kebbi State Central Motor Park, and the Argogo Bypass Road. President Tinubu praised Governor Idris for the state's rapid infrastructure development within 2.5 years of his administration. He also attended the 61st Argogo Festival, a UNESCO-recognized cultural event featuring agricultural fairs, traditional sports, and races, highlighting the administration's focus on cultural promotion and regional development. We'll go on a quick break now. The news continues when we return.
"5G technology. 5G technology promises to be a game changer by delivering ultra-fast internet speeds, low latency, and the ability to connect millions of devices seamlessly. It's going to fuel the future of smart cities, autonomous vehicles, and IoT devices, allowing them to communicate in real time. However, 5G rollout isn't without hurdles. High costs of infrastructure and regulatory issues in some regions have slowed down implementation. By 2026, the 5G market is expected to be valued at $667.90 billion, with the US, China, and South Korea leading the change. The challenge? Cybersecurity risks and data privacy will remain top concerns as more devices become connected.
Welcome back. If you're just joining, this is Idea Television Midday News at 9, I beg your pardon. Now the rest of the news. Away from Africa, at the Munich Security Conference yesterday, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio described the United States as the child of Europe, emphasizing the importance of transatlantic unity amid global challenges. He reassured European allies that America remains committed to the partnership, saying for the United States and Europe, we belong together. Rubio's speech sought to calm European concerns over potential U.S. disagreements in areas including the war in Ukraine and international trade. While largely symbolic, it signaled a more diplomatic approach compared with previous administrations, drawing praises from leaders such as European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephol. Concerns remain over Ukraine, with President Zelensky warning that U.S. brokered negotiations with Russia could pressure Kyiv into unforgivable concessions. Rubio address underscored America's commitments to Europe and the need for shared responsibility, even as practical details of the partnership remain uncertain. In other news, President Donald Trump has threatened to sidestep Congress and impose new election rules ahead of the November midterm elections if lawmakers fail to act. Trump said the country will have voter identification requirements whether approved by Congress or not, and indicated he may issue an executive order to enforce them. A Republican-backed Save America Act passed by the House of Representatives this week would mandate photo identification at the polls and proof of citizenship to register to vote. But the measure faces strong opposition in the Senate and is unlikely to secure the votes needed to become law, prompting Trump's warning of alternative action. Legal experts say any executive order would likely trigger immediate court challenges, as election administration is primarily a state and local responsibility. Critics argue the proposed reforms could disenfranchise millions of eligible voters, while Trump frames the push as essential to election integrity ahead of a highly competitive midterm session. And now to health. The Nigerian National Drug Law Enforcement Agency in Kano has arrested 17 suspects and seized a range of illegal drugs as part of Operation Ramadan Mubarak. The raids targeted strategic locations across the state, including Race Course, Dano Agondi, Filin Mahaha, Kano Zoological Garden, Farm Center along Zaria Road, and Tashha Rami Naimbawa. Confiscated substances included methamphetamine, cannabis, Savita, Exalt 5, diazepam, and rubber solution, reflecting the agency's continued efforts to dismantle drug networks and curb narcotics distribution. State Commander Dahiru Yahaya Lawal said operations will continue throughout Ramadan. He urged residents to remain vigilant and provide credible information to support NDLEA's mission of fostering a drug-free society in line with directives from NDLEA Chairman Muhammad Buba Marwa. And now to business. The federal government has released 127 billion naira to continue road projects previously funded by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, the Minister of Works David Umahi announced on Friday. The move follows NNPCL's withdrawal from the tax credit road scheme in August 2025, with the ministry now taking over supervision and funding of ongoing projects. The funds will support critical road corridors, including Abuja, Kaduna, and Bodo-Borno roads, which have faced delays due to vandalism, flooding, and extensions. The total cost of former NNPCL-funded projects is estimated at 7 trillion naira, with the ministry exploring public-private partnerships to ensure timely completion. Minister Umahi emphasized that the government has ended the corporate tax credit funding approach. Projects will now follow proper appropriation processes, ensuring transparency and legislative approval in line with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's directive to safeguard infrastructure development and improve nationwide connectivity. Climate news. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni announced on Friday on 14 a proposal to allow African countries affected by extreme climate events to temporarily suspend debt repayment. The announcement came at the close of the second Italy-Africa meeting in Addis Ababa. Meloni said the plan built on Italy's debt conversion initiative for joint development projects and introduces climate-linked debt relief clauses. The mechanisms aim to help nations manage debt while addressing severe climate shocks, though she did not specify which countries would qualify for the implementation details. The initiative is part of Italy's broader Mattei plan, which promotes long-term partnerships with African nations in energy, agriculture, and infrastructure. Meloni is expected to continue discussions with African leaders at the 39th African Union Summit on Friday 15 in Addis Ababa. And now to sports. Nigeria's Eniola Bolaji has reached the final of the 2026 Para Badminton World Championship in Bahrain after a dominant semi-final win over China's Guanyin Yuan. The African champion will face Japan's Shino Kawai in today's final, building on a tournament of commanding victories against top-ranked opponents. Meanwhile, Chigozie Nana secured a historic bronze in the men's SL4 event, becoming the first African to win a medal at the Para Badminton World Championship. Both athletes have now guaranteed podium finishes, marking a landmark achievement for Nigeria and the continent. Francis Obi, President of the Badminton Federation of Nigeria, praised the duo, noting that Bolaji's second final this year and Nana medal reflects strategic efforts to raise the profile of para badminton in the country. He also highlighted ongoing support from the National Sports Commission, Abia State Government, and GIG Logistics. And that is all we have for you on Idea Television News at 9. But before we go, here is a recap of the headlines. President Tinubu reaffirms commitments to Southeast development. Ndayishimiye takes over as AU chair. Shettima attends summit. Omoshein calls for patriotism to drive national development. China to scrap tariff on African exports from May 2026. President Tinubu commissions 5 projects in Kebbi. Away from Africa, Rubio calls U.S. Europe's child, reaffirms transatlantic unity. Trump threatens to bypass Congress for selection rules. In health, NDLEA arrests 17, seizes drugs in Kano ahead of Ramadan. In business, federal government releases 127 billion naira to continue former NNPCL road project. In climate, Italy proposes climate shock debt suspension for Africa. In sports, Bolaji reaches final. Nana wins historic bronze at World Champs. Do not forget to follow us across all our social media platforms at Idea Television. I am Adewale Olashopo. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.